Today we will discuss friction in worm gears. What is the how to find out coefficient of friction in worm and worm wheel? That is very important one, and for that purpose, you know very well here compared with the other gears, along with the rolling, there is a sliding friction, and because of this friction, there is a excessive heat generation. That's why to take into account or thermal consideration plays important role in design of worm and worm wheel. That's why we have to how to calculate this coefficient of friction in worm gear drive. That is important thing. That's in today's session we are going to discuss friction in worm gears. And it is again having a relation with the efficiency of the worm gear drive also. Okay, you know very well this coefficient of friction is depends on rubbing speed. And you know the what do you mean by rubbing speed? Rubbing speed is nothing but a relative velocity between worm and worm wheel. Relative velocity between worm and worm wheel. So first of all, what we have to do to have a value of coefficient of friction, we have to find out the rubbing speed. And how to find out it? Because in this case, along with rolling motion, there is a sliding motion. Okay, or combination of you can say rolling and sliding. Look at this here. You will observe here this gear. If you are going to observe, this gear is nothing but a worm, and this gear is nothing but a worm wheel. Here it is mentioned it's a worm wheel, then it's a worm. Again here, top portion, if you are going to observe how this figure is constructed, you will find this worm is shown hidden. That means bottom side of the worm, which is shown by dashed line. And here this part of the worm, if you are going to observe, it's in meshing condition in top. That means here, you know, in this way, this is what, this is worm, and here worm wheel is going to mesh with this, or gear is going to mesh with this. This is the gear, and you can rotate in 90-degree towards the side. You will get here, this is the worm, and this view of the worm wheel. Try to understand. We are going to consider this view. Now again here, this is for the worm. This is nothing but a helix or teeth or thread which is cut on the worm. Now again, there are two velocities. One is the pitch line velocity V1 of the worm. And again, that pitch line velocity we are considering in the plane of rotation. You know very well, this is worm, and if it is going to rotate in this way, that means V1 is the pitch line velocity in the plane of rotation. Similarly, V2. What do you mean by V2? It is also a pitch line velocity of the worm, and again it is in the plane of rotation, or you can see in the plane of rotation. That's why here V1 is the pitch line velocity of the worm, and its unit is meter per second, and V2 is the pitch line velocity of the worm wheel. Again it is in meter per second. And you can construct here velocity triangle. Now here this triangle is shown at, take any one of the point where this worm and worm, this is the pitch point on the helix where it is meshing. Here this V2, this V2 is the pitch line velocity of the worm wheel, V1 is the pitch line velocity of the worm, and along the helix or the thread, here you will get the Vs. Now this Vs is the rubbing velocity. Try to understand. Now you can construct this velocity triangle. This is the Vs, and gamma, you know very well, yesterday we have discussed yesterday. Now consider this triangle and find out the Vs, that is the rubbing velocity. Just you have to use the geometry. So before that, here this worm, it rotates at some RPM. So what is the pitch line velocity of the worm? Pi dn by 60. Here it is divided by 1000 to get value in meter per second. You know very well that V1. And again from this figure, we have to find out the pitch line that is Vs. How we are going to find out? You can use the velocity triangle. This Vs and V1, taking the cosine of this angle gamma, you will get Vs is equal to V1 cos gamma. And what is the V1? Pi d1 into n1 upon 16 to 10 raised to 3. You can substitute. So you will get rubbing velocity in meter per second. So you can remember this equation or just remember this triangle velocity triangle. That means once you will get a rubbing velocity, then in data books and in codes means American Gear Manufacturing Association or many the standards, you will find there is one graph which is plotted for this coefficient of friction and rubbing speed. So on x-axis rubbing speed is given, on y-axis coefficient of friction mu is given. Once you have calculated a rubbing speed by using earlier expression in terms of V1 and cos gamma, so what you have to do, suppose calculated value of rubbing speed is 2.5. So what you have to do, you can locate here and it is going to intersect this graph or a line you can see here. So you will get here coefficient of friction is equal to 0.03. Okay, in this way you can find out the coefficient of friction for worm gears. Again here you will find these rubbing speeds are given maximum 15, then the coefficient of friction range is given 0.012 to 0.150. So don't take more than this also, you have to take care. One thing. Again, this graph of coefficient of friction and rubbing speed, which is plotted for the worm and worm gear drive, in which worm is made up of case iron steel and worm gear is made up of phosphor bronze. And these gears are lubricated with a mineral oil having viscosity in the range of 16 to 130 centistokes at 60°. Try to understand. For this condition, this graph is plotted. By using this graph, you can easily find out the coefficient of friction. Okay, in this way, here friction, which helps you to find out first the rubbing speed and then coefficient of friction. But again, how it is, we are going to get it, we will see here in cell blocking of the worm and worm gear drive also. The another main important point in this topic is efficiency of the worm gear drive. How to find out the efficiency? When relative velocity is less, friction is more. When relative is less, friction is more. I don't got Rishabh, you can type once again. Relative velocity is, that means rubbing velocity is less, why friction is more. Where it is? No, you can check it. Once again, I will show the graph. As the rubbing velocity increases, coefficient of friction decreases. Rishabh, as the rubbing speed increases, coefficient of friction decreases. What you would like to ask? Yes, why it is increasing rubbing speed? Why it is? No, based on the rubbing speed, coefficient of friction which is determined here. This is one thing, and coefficient of friction which is depends on the material, and material means that's why the one soft material which is used for the worm wheel, and because of that conformability plays the important role. In initial stages of meshing, when worm and worm gears are new one, there is a friction, or you can say coefficient of friction may be high, but during running condition, because of the conformability property, it is going to decrease, and as the speed increases, it is also going to decrease, and it is going to properly mesh with the teeth of the worm and the worm will. That is the reason only, as per my knowledge. Okay, Rishabh. Then next point is coefficient of friction. Oh, sorry, efficiency of the worm and or worm gear drive. Generally, you know what is the efficiency? Efficiency is power output upon power input. But power output, how you are going to measure? So you should know the torque and the speed. The power output at the worm wheel, which is calculated by using tangential force of the worm wheel. You know, in this case, worm is the driver, worm wheel is the driven member. That's why you will get the output at worm wheel or a worm gear. Therefore, this tangential component of the worm wheel into d2 by 2, it gives you the torque, mt, and n2 you will get from the speed. Okay, output shaft speed. Similarly, how much is the power input? The P1T into D2, this is the input torque for the driver or a worm into the speed. For F into V, you can say for the general formula, or MT or torque into omega, you can see in this way. So you can put these values PT to T into D2 by 2 into N2. This relation you can use it. But why it is written in this way, we have to make some arrangement. We know very well N1 upon N2 for this is equal to I, that is ratio velocity ratio. Therefore, N2 by N1 is equal to 1 by I. Why we are arranging the terms in this way? Because we have to substitute N2 by N1 is equal to 1 by I here. Then another term D2 by 2 and D1 by 2. So you know what do you mean by D2 PCD of the worm wheel or a gear? And it's given MZ2. What is D1? D1 is the PCD of the worm and it's given by M into Q. So you can substitute M gets cancelled. You will get here Z2 by Q. But again, what you have to do? What is the, you can divide and multiply this term by Z1. This term by Z1, both these. Then Z2 by Z1. And what is Q by Z? The Q by Z is having relation with this. And Z2 by Z means the I. Try to understand. And in this way, we have again calculated or found the value of d1 by d2 by d1 is equal to I tan of gamma, because we are going to substitute again this value here also. That's why we have make this arrangement. Try to understand. So we have a n2 by n1 is equal to 1 by I, d2 by d1 is equal to I tan gamma. Now let us see, we have to substitute in this equation. How we are going to substitute? After substituting, that means here I have already told to you, you can substitute n2 by n is equal to 1 by I here, and d2 by d1 is equal to d2 by d1. You can make change I into this and solve this. You will get, you can do at home also, no problem. After doing this calculation, what you will get? N2 is equal to, you can check at home, no problem. Sorry, it's not N, it's efficiency is equal to P2T upon P1T into tan gamma. But yesterday we have seen force analysis in worm gears. What is tangential force on worm wheel is equal to axial force on worm. So what you have to do, you can change this PT2 is equal to P1A and you will get this relation. And then what is P1 axial force on the worm? That is cos alpha minus cos gamma minus mu sin alpha. This term because of the normal reaction component, and this mu sin gamma, this is because of the frictional component. And y negative sign is which is opposite to the direction of rotation. Yesterday we have discussed this thing. Similarly, P1T, that is a tangential force in worm, is equal to cos alpha into sin gamma plus mu cos gamma. But this first term cos alpha into sin gamma, this is because of the normal reaction, and mu cos gamma, you know, in horizontal direction which acts towards the opposite to the axial force. Yesterday we have seen here mu cos gamma. So this is because of the friction term. You can substitute and solve it again. You can say tan gamma is equal to sin gamma upon cos gamma. Then you can solve it, multiply to the both the terms, then cancel some terms, and at the last you will get this equation. Efficiency of the worm gear drive is equal to cos alpha minus mu tan gamma upon cos alpha plus mu cot gamma. So you will find this efficiency of the worm gear drive depends on pressure angle, depends on mu coefficient of friction, and lead angle gamma. The mu, gamma, and alpha plays important role here in case of worm and worm gear drive. That's why how to take the value of mu. That's why the rubbing velocity that you have to determine. Based on that, you will get the coefficient of friction. Then and then you can easily find out the worm drive efficiency. Now let us, yesterday, we have already told you self-locking. What do you mean by self-locking of the worm gear drive? So you know very well, worm is the driver, worm wheel is the driven member, and reverse motion is not possible. You can't connect the worm wheel to the prime mover. Try to understand. And to take the power output at the worm. It's not possible because here the worm wheel cannot drive the worm. Try to understand, this is the one thing. Second thing, self-locking is the requirement in many application, in cranes, in lifting applications, then in other the hoists also. The here self-locking plays important role. But here, this self-locking is again totally depends on coefficient of friction and lead angle, and efficiency also depends on these terms. You know very well. Like a power screw, in a power screw also coefficient of friction and lead angle plays a very important role, and they decides whether the screw is a self-locking or a overhauling screw. In same fashion, we are going to decide whether the worm and whether the worm and worm gear drive is a self-locking or not. That will be decided by using these two terms, coefficient of friction and lead angle. Okay. Now, but when we are going to say it's a self-locking one, if the coefficient of friction that is mu is greater than tangent of lead angle, is greater than tangent of lead angle, that is gamma. And you know very well what is this mu? Tan phi is equal to mu. Tan phi is equal to mu. So you can say friction angle is more than the lead angle is also the another condition. Friction angle is also more than the this lead angle. The tan phi is equal to mu. You know very well in friction you might have studied. The mu is equal to. This is the condition for self-locking. But in this condition, it's not possible to run a worm by using worm wheel. But what I am telling to you, kindly listen carefully. But you, in some of the applications, sometimes if inertia of the operated machine, which is run by a worm gear box or a worm gear drive, if it's a more, and sometimes if failure of that machine occurs, there may be possibility it can run a worm gear in reverse direction, and such a provision is made. During that time, worm wheel can be rotated, worm can be rotated by worm wheel just to avoid that accident. And in that situation, this mu is less than the tan of lead angle. Try to understand, but it's not a overhauling condition, it's reverse condition, but it is used just to avoid the accident, but not running the worm by using the worm wheel. But to make such a arrangement, the efficiency should be lower, near about 50 60, then and then it's possible, and to have a self-locking. Okay, but sometimes due to inertia, it's not possible to lock that worm and worm gear. And to it is there is a need, or instead of failure of the gearbox, to run a worm by worm wheel. That during that time it runs, but it is not the case of the worm wheel becomes a driver and worm becomes a driven member. Try to understand. Such a provision is there in some of the cases to take the care of the accident and failure of the gearbox. Try to understand these things and you have to remember this. Okay, this is about the friction in worm and worm gear drive. Worm, that is strength and wear rating of the worm gears. Now again, you know very well worm, how to design worm and worm gear. In spur gear design, in helical gear design, and in bevel gear design, we have seen beam strength and wear strength or fitting strength is the criteria to design spur, helical, and bevel gears. In this case also, we can go for these criteria. But these are worm and worm gears with a high speed reduction gears or a gearboxes. They are designed using national and international code. And generally here, AGMA, AGMA, American Gear Manufacturing Associations catalog, which is worldwide referred by many manufacturers. Try to understand. This is one thing. Second thing, you know very well, while selecting the material for a worm and worm gears, worm is always having a high, always we are using a high strength material and a high fatigue strength material for a worm because it rotates at a high speed. And for a worm wheel, always we are preparing a softer material. Phosphor bronze is a generally used material, and it's compared. That means which is the weaker than the high strength material used for the worm. And what is the criteria in spur, helical, and bevel gears? We have decided which one is the weaker, whether the worm is weaker, whether the gear is weaker, whether the pinion is weaker. If same materials are used, we are deciding sigma b into y product decides which one is weaker, and based on that we have designed it. When same material, pinion is always weaker. Different material, sigma b into y product decides in spur, helical, and worm, spur, helical, and bevel, not one. But in this case, softer material is used for the worm gear, harder or high strength material, alloy steel material, plain carbon steel material, which are used for the worm. But that's why you will find worm wheel is or worm gear is always weaker than the worm. And therefore, always because we are using different material, that's why worm gear or a worm wheel is always weaker than the worm. Therefore, worm gear that you have to design first by using Levy's equation for strength. That means CSB is equal to MB. Okay. Then here also in this case worm and worm wheel, there are two equations, beam strength and wear strength equation like a other gears also. But what we have to do, we are not doing calculation for SB and SW. Instead of that, we are going to use a rating codes given by this IS 1443 1974. So this code we have to use to find out the power transmitting capacity of the worm gear drive. And why power transmitting capacity of the worm gear drive plays here major role, because in this case thermal consideration is a very important aspect uh, because of the friction or excessive heat generation. That's why maximum permissible torque transmission capacity or power transmitting capacity is the major concern in worm and wheel drive. Therefore, what we have to do? We have to consider the strength rating of the worm gear, and second one is the wear rating of the worm gear. These are the two criteria to find out the power transmitting capacity. And in like the spur, you can use SB is equal to 10 SW is equal to, and the worm wheel is always weaker. So you can design a first the worm wheel means gear. You can do that, but it is not the reality. Always it's a weaker. It is having like a construction like a helical or a spiral helical gear. You can design that worm gear like a helical gear or a spiral helical gear also, no problem. Again, what are the fundamentals of that you can use and find out the dimension for worm wheel. But what you have to do in design of this worm gear drive, you have to find out strength rating of the worm gear and wear rating of the worm gear to find out the power transmission capacity. Try to understand. But for that purpose, here you will find this code IS 14430 that we are going to use. And according to this strength rating and wear rating, the first let us discuss strength rating. According to the strength rating of worm gears and this code, maximum permissible torque that worm wheel or a worm gear can withstand without bending failure is. There are two expressions. Empirical relations are given directly in data book or code. You can refer MT1 is equal to 17.65 XB1 into SB1 into M into LR into D2 into cos gamma. Where and the MT2 is equal to also the same, only here two suffix use. What is this? I will explain. MT1 and MT2 two relations are given to find out the maximum permissible torque that worm wheel can transmit without bending failure. And here some terms are there. These terms I will elaborate these terms. First one is the XB1 and XB2. What is XB1 and XB2? Speed factors for worm and worm wheel. Then second SB1 and SB2, again bending stress factor for worm and worm wheel. Again it depends on the material properties. Try to understand. It depends on the speed. Okay. Then LR, yesterday we have derived this expression LR, length of root of worm wheel teeth. Someone has asked me where to use this LR. You can use here this LR. Then D2 is the PCD of the worm wheel. D2 is the PCD of the worm wheel. Gamma is the lead angle. Okay. And to find out this MT1 and MT2, because we have to find out MT1 and MT2, and out of these two torques, whichever is having lower value, that value we have to use it to calculate the power rating. Lower value out of these two equations. You can calculate first, then second, and whichever is lower that you have to use to calculate the power transmitting capacity. Now, how to take the value of XB1 speed factor, how to take the value of SB1 for worm and worm wheel. Let us discuss these factors. Okay. Now, speed factors for worm and worm wheel. So what we have to do, look at this. Here this graph is given, revolution per minute on x-axis, and speed factor, this is xb is given on y-axis. Now what we have to do, suppose xb1 is the speed factor for the worm. So what you have to do, worm rotates at high speed, it's a reduction. Generally worm rotates at high speed and worm will rotates at low speed. Suppose high speed, take the example, worm rotates at 2000 rpm. You can draw a vertical line where it is going to cut to this graph or a curve. Here you can note down these points. You will get this is xb1 for worm, because we have taken the speed of the worm. Try to understand. So here you will get xb1 value. It is 0.2 something. It is in between 0.2 to 0.3. If you would like to find out xb2, this is speed factor for worm wheel. The worm wheel rotates at low speed. Suppose it rotates at 100. So you can take here 100 where it is going to cut to the curve. Here you will get this is xb2, that is 0.4. So in this way, by referring this graph, you will get xb1 and xb2, and it is depends on the speed of the worm and speed of the worm. We'll try to understand. Okay, in this way you can find out the xb1 and xb2. Then second one is the bending stress factor. Now bending stress factor SB1, this is for a worm, and SB2, this is for a worm wheel, and SB1, this is for a worm. How to find out it? Now you know very well which material is used for a worm, and generally these materials are prepared for the worm. These materials are used for the worm wheel. Worm wheel, which is made up of softer material, you know very well, phosphor bronze, centrifugally cast is the softer material, phosphor bronze sand cast chilled, phosphor bronze sand cast. The worm wheel may be made up of these materials. If it is made up of phosphor bronze and centrifugally cast, SB is equal to this, means SB2. Then phosphor bronze cast steel, you will get SB2 is equal to this. And when to find out the value of SB1, that is bending stress factor for worm, which materials are used? The carbon steel 40C8, then 55 plain carbon steel, then case hardened steel 10C414, then alloy steels. So you can take these values as a SB1. This is bending stress factor for worm. That means which material is used for the worm, accordingly you can select SB1. Which material used for the worm wheel, accordingly you can select the value of SB2. Try to understand. Okay, this is about the bending stress factor. Then next term in the equation, we know very well how to find out this, how to find out this, how to find out this, how to find out this. M is the model, M is the model. Then D2 is equal to what? M into Z2. Here also D2 is equal to M into Z2. Gamma is the lead angle. You can find out tan gamma is equal to, yesterday we have derived the relation for the lead. Then only LR is remaining, that is length of root of the worm. Yesterday we have derived. I am going to once again write LR is equal to dA1 plus 2C sine inverse of F upon dA1 plus 2C. What is F? F is the face width. Yesterday again we have derived this. 2m plus under root q plus 1. Q is the diameter quotient. M is the module. You will get F. You can substitute. C is the clearance. Then dA1 is the outside diameter of the worm. Yesterday you have written M is equal to Q plus 2. So you can substitute, you will get LR. That means after getting all these values, what you have to do, you have to calculate MT1 and MT2 separately. And once it's calculated, MT1 and MT2, then what you have to do, you have to select this, calculate MT1, MT2, and out of these two value, which one is the lower value that you have to take in your calculation. And this lower value of MT1 and MT2, out of these two, you can take and substitute here and find out the power transmitting capacity on beam strength. 2 pi into N2 means output shaft speed. Lower value, you will get power rating in kilowatt. In this way, you can find out the power transmitting capacity based on beam strength. Similarly, now we have to find out power transmitting capacity based on wear rating. How to find out? Again, according to the same code here, we have to find out the maximum permissible torque that worm wheel can withstand without pitting failure. And for that purpose, again, two relations are given in the code and data books. Also, you will find MT3 and MT4, 18.64 XC1 into SC1 into YZ into D2 raised to 1.8 into M. Similarly, here 18.64 into XC2, SC2, YZ, same in both the equation, D2 raised to 1.8 into model. Again, here out of these two values, MT3 and MT4, again we have to prefer which, after calculating 3 and 4, which one is the lower that you have to use to calculate the power rating of the worm gear drive. Okay, worm wheel. Now here MT3, MT4 permissible torque on the worm wheel. Then what is XC1 and XC2? The XC1 and XC2 are the speed factors. SC1 and SC2 are the surface stress factor. Why surface stress factor is taken into account? Because wear totally depends on the fatigue strength or surface strength of the material. That's why surface stress factors are taken into consideration. And YZ is the zone factor. Zone factor means how the number of threads or starts, in worm, which is going to mesh with the worm wheel. And that's why it is totally depends on the Z1 and the Q, the diametral quotient is having a relation. Based on that Z and the diameter, Z1 and diameter quotient, we are going to select the zone factor. Let us see how to select all these speed factor, surface stress factor, or wear rating. Okay. Now here, first one, how to find out the speed factor. Now here is speed factors for the wear of worm and worm wheel. Now here, this is denoted by here XC1 for the worm and XC2 for the worm wheel. Now how to find out? Now here you have to refer again the catalog. You will find data book or the code. X-axis rubbing speed given in meter per second. Y-axis revolution per minute. So what you have to do, to first of all find out the rubbing speed. And how to calculate the rubbing speed in worm drive, you know very well. Vs is equal to, we have derived now, pi into d1 into n1 upon 60,000 into cos gamma. To find out rubbing speed. Once you will get the rubbing speed here, the different curves are drawn here. Look at these curves. Different curves are drawn. Where you are going to look at the points on these curves, you will get the speed factor. Try to understand. Now let us see how to. First of all, find out the rubbing speed. Once you will get the rubbing speed is equal to suppose 4. And what is the revolution per minute? Suppose we are going to calculate XC1. XC1 means for a worm. Again, worm rotates at high speed. Now let us consider worm rotates at 2000 RPM. I am going to draw horizontal line for a worm. It rotates at 2000 RPM. But what is the rubbing speed? It is 4. We have calculated. We have to draw the line. So look at this. This line which is going to cut in between these two curves here. Okay, that means here this line and in this point which comes in between 0.10 and 0.11. So you can say if it is nearer to this, the here it is in between 0.10 to 0.11. It may be 0.101 like this. So you can take this value. Try to understand this thing. Similarly, if you would like to find out the XC2, XC2 means speed factor for the worm wheel. Again here rubbing speed is 4. Then suppose worm wheel rotates at 400 rpm. Okay, so you can draw a line, take rubbing speed. Again this line where it is going to cut at this point, it is near about 0.18. You can say 0.18 is the XC2. In this way you have to find out the speed factor for worm and worm wheel by taking their speed into consideration and referring this curve. You will get the value. Then second one is the surface stress factor. In the strength one, there is a bending stress here, surface strength. Now surface strength means SC1 and SC2. Again it depends on the material used. SC1 is the surface strength factor for the worm and SC2 for worm wheel. Right on. Again depends on the material. Phosphor bronze, and these materials are used for the worm wheel. But how to select the value of SC2? First of all, I will explain SC2. SC2 means the surface stress factor for worm wheel. Now suppose worm wheel is made up of phosphor bronze. This, look at this. Worm wheel which is made up of phosphor bronze. You can take any one of the material here which is shown. Suppose phosphor bronze, sand cast angle. This material is used. Okay. And here you will find in this column there are three values A, B, C, D. Now what you have to do, this worm wheel is going to mesh with the worm. So you have to check worm material. Suppose worm wheel material is phosphor bronze, and if worm is made up of this plain carbon steel 40C8, this is what is the code for this B. So you have to come to the column B. So you can say 0.63 is the value of this SC2. Try to understand. And what's about the first one, that is SC1, is very simple. Suppose plain carbon steel 40C8 is the material used for the worm. What is the value? 1.1 is the value, that is SC1. Only while calculating the value of SC2, you have to take into account this B, C, D and the material used for the worm wheel. Once again I will repeat. How to take the value of SC1? Suppose worm is made of cast hardened carbon steel. So you look at this in first column, value is 4.93. You can say it is SC1, that is surface stress factor. But how to find out the SC2 for the same material? This material is used for the worm, and suppose worm wheel is made up of this material, phosphor bronze. The A is having relation with the D. So what you have to select the D column. What is the value? 1.55. This is the SC2. Try to understand. In this way you can select the material SC1 and SC2 here. Then the value of zone factor, that is YZ. How to take this YZ? It depends on, again this table is given to you, depends on number of starts, and Q means diametral quotient. So suppose diametral quotient is, yesterday how to designate the gear Z1, Z2, then Q and then M. If Q is given, that is yet, you can take yet, and number of starts 1, that means 1.08 is the zone factor. Okay, and it is same for both MT3 and MT4. Try to understand. Here it's not written YZ1, YZ2. This zone factor remains same for both the cases, worm and worm wheel. Okay. Then D2. What is D2? It is the PCD of the worm wheel, and it is also PCD of the worm wheel, because we are calculating the torque transmitting capacity of the worm wheel. Try to understand. The D2 is equal to M into Z2 in both the equations. So you can find out into raised D2 raised to 1.8 into module. Find out MT3 and MT4 at the last. After calculating it, what you will get? You have to take MT out of this MT3 and MT4, which value you have to take? Always lower value. Which one is lower? You can take this MT as a maybe MT3 or MT4, but whichever is lower, that is MT. And then same equation you can use to find out the kilowatt rating or power transmitting capacity based on the wear strength. In this way, you can find out the ratings against the bending and the pitting or wear failure for the worm and worm gear type. Okay. This is about the ratings.